What's up with Steve? Steve, I
Cold
guess
up here.
Steve has got like I don't know, stuck in Siberia or something. I'm not sure what's going on with him over there.
It snowed this weekend. It hasn't been above freezing. Well, it got above freezing briefly today. It's been cold up here.
Well, it's been cold here too. I think it's Echo. What's the temperature outside?
Right now, it's 72 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah,
Tonight, expect a low of 60 degrees.
yeah. See, this is like 72 out there right now, and it's supposed to get down to 60 tonight. So I don't know if we're gonna make it.
Yeah, I don't think
I
Did you bring your snow chains with you?
I didn't.
I I got the shop warmed up to 61 today.
Well, how is everybody? Sharon, I see you there. Philip, Brian, here's your hero over here. If we can get him off the phone,
Hold on,
he's over here playing on the phone. But
he's calling me.
you didn't tell her. You didn't tell her when we went live, maybe. Mm. Well, did Kline break the stream? I sure hope not. Are y'all not seeing us or what? It looks like
I,
they
I
see
think
us.
I think they're all there.
I think so.
Yeah, so I say it appears that everything is working on my end. Uh, but yeah, it's still a little warm right now. We're supposed to get some cold weather. I think like Tuesday or Wednesday it's supposed to get cold here, but not like that cold.
No.
It's supposed to be like in the 40s.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's yeah, we have this is below average for us right now, and unfortunately, all the trick or treaters up here are probably going to look like you know snowmobilers or something because they're talking about it being in the low 30s for Halloween night as well. But
ugh,
on the plus side, I think most of the bugs are dead. There are no crickets out here that I've been hearing this
I was gonna
weekend.
say
So
I hadn't heard your cricket
yeah,
gathering yet. So
yeah,
that's good.
I think. Well, let's just go with they're hibernating.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's good. Oh, Daniel Justice says he's just here for Klein.
That's it. Hey.
all right. Well, I guess you and I can leave then.
Yeah, I mean we can just like we just go chill out. So. But anyway, to give y'all a little bit more backstory, I'm going to let Klein kind of tell y'all because a lot of you have heard him, you've seen him in some of the videos over here at the shack, but he didn't really. When did you get your first machine?
Back probably.
You have to talk. You got to talk to the mic now.
I'm sorry. Probably there. It was around December, maybe January,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
What did you? What was your training wheels? What did I give you for training
Ooh,
wheels?
it was a 5 watt. I don't remember what kind of laser it was. Was it Adamstack?
I think it was Adam Stack M9
It was like a
P40
little
or something.
tripod, and
Yeah, you may have to scoot on
I
up, bro.
mean, screw it. And it was hard to use, but it was a good learning tool. So if I made it through that, I can pretty much run anything at this point.
Yeah. And so, like now you've got it to where what in the past month or so, where you actually started making a little bit of money to buy some
Oh
tools
yeah,
with and stuff.
last couple months I've been making a few dollars here and there to fund the shop. So that's kind of what we're doing in terms of starting out is just buying the tools we need.
Yeah, yeah. And I outsource a few jobs to Klein. Like if I've got like a big order for a customer or whatever that I don't have time for, if it's something that he can do within what he has at his shop, then I'll send it to him a lot of times because between trying to do content, uh, Clayton's doing all my stove covers and stuff that I've got going on. A lot of times I get to where I just really don't have the time, and so Klein will help me out and do those jobs. And you've bought a couple of saws and
Yeah,
stuff like that with the money that he's generated. And like I said, he's just getting started. I think you said you've done pretty good on Christmas ornaments the past couple of weeks.
I have. I've made a few dollars on Christmas ornaments and small stuff. Now I don't try to get off into anything real huge because
Yeah.
I'm not equipped for that just yet.
And then he comes over for the live tonight and brings a pocket knife with him.
Yeah.
Because apparently there's not a fiber laser over at the Kline Shack just
No.
yet. So before the live, guys, we had to. And by the way, I don't know what the grips were made of, but the fiber would not touch it, so I wound up having to engrave the blade. But it was, I'm guessing maybe like carbon fiber or something, but it just absorbed the laser and didn't leave a mark. But uh, but yeah, it's getting crazy. Nah, Brian, he gets paid. I pay him when he does jobs for me, so I'm getting the hit on that, not him.
Yeah.
So, but usually a lot of times he either needs blanks, which I buy in bulk, so I can get them a little cheaper than he can, or like sometimes it's a router or a saw or something like that that he needs, and so I'll help him purchase some of his tools because he started out. I think would you have a skill saw and a drill? That was
Yeah,
it.
something like that. Very basic. Very basic. Most of the time when I do a job for Clack, I'll just send him a list. Hey, this is what I need you to get me. Let me know when it comes in.
Yeah. So like if he's getting a $400 payday, he'll just go on Amazon and be like, hey, I need this.
Yeah.
And it keeps it keeps saves him a little bit of money. Plus it kind of keeps his mind on tools and build his program up a little bit. So it's getting there. He's come a long way. But like I said, he started out with like the simplest machine I had, and he's worked up. What all you're running the? You got the
LM3.
LM3, and you extended it
I
yourself.
extended it myself.
It's a
Then
20 watt, and then you've got the Atom
Atom
Stack
Stack.
830,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Creality.
Yeah.
Falcon 2? Yeah.
Yeah.
20 watt. So now those are still technically part of the Clack Shack. Can hardly hear us. I can turn the mic up. I can turn the mic up, but it may get too loud. It's probably because Kline's got me kind of out of my usual spot. How about
Yeah.
that? Is that better? It looks like I'm about redlining it over there. I can go louder. Yeah, Craig, I tell you, it's been a tough road. For about 3 or 4 weeks, I didn't know if I was going to pull through or not. Then I got the surgery and they got the pressure off that nerve. They went in thinking I had a pinched nerve, and I was told when I went into to get the surgery, they told me they were going to go in. Basically, my nerve was pinched. I had a bulge. And they were going to like trim the bulge a little bit and relieve the pressure off my nerve. But apparently, sometime after they put me to sleep and got into my back, they discovered that it wasn't just a bulge, that the disc had actually ruptured and a piece of it was like loose and had gotten binded against the nerve or whatever. So it wound up going from a 45-minute surgery to like an hour and a half long surgery. But they got me patched back up, put back together. And other than still having some tingling and some pain in my leg, it is 300% better than what it was. So hopefully we'll be fixed up. November the 7th, I go back for my checkup, my follow up, just to see if everything went the way they wanted it to. And hopefully I'll find out from the doctor a little more about what they did, because he had to call an audible while they had me under. So I didn't really get a briefing or anything before they did it. They just called Brandy and said, hey, while we were in there, things changed and we had to do some different stuff, but we got him fixed. So Brian's saying that he made something for you there, Steve.
Oh. Oh, very nice. Yeah.
You got something in the shadow box over there.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it, Brian. And it was fun to meet you and a few others at the Woodworking Expo a couple weeks ago. So
questions about anything else? Anybody got questions for Kline? He has told me he can't stay the whole time. He's got to go home. So he's probably only going to be here till about 7:30 or so. So if you got questions, you want to ask him something, or especially with somebody he is still trying to build up his side hustle. So if you have any questions about anything like that, then here he is. And Brian, soak it in, buddy. Soak it in. But
how I know you've sent him some work, but Kline, how else have you been drumming up work? Is it just friends and family, word of mouth? I think you've got a Facebook page, right?
Yeah, no, I've got a Facebook page, and it's word of mouth basically, and people that I know. I do a lot of things for my family and my wife's family, and just
make them take pictures and put it on Facebook and tag you.
just when I do something, make them take a picture and put it on Facebook and tag me in it so everybody can see it. And it's starting to grow a little bit.
All right, Brian's got a question for you there, Kline. Well, I think me and Steve clicked on the same one at the same time or something.
Hey, that's all you.
Brian wants to know, what is the number one thing that's helped you get started besides me?
Not trying to go too fast. Not trying. If you buy a laser and you think that you're going to just take it out of the box and start supplementing your income, you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to put it to the side. So the number one thing that'll help you get started is just do it as a hobby first. Learn what you can do. I still learn things every day. So having the laser and just being patient with it, and finding out what your niche is and what you can do and what you can't do, and then go from there. Watch a lot of YouTube videos. That's what I did. Clack's motto when I called him is, "Hey, there's a video for that." Every time I call, there's video for that. I was like, all right, I'll go find it.
Yeah, he'll call me with a question, and I'll just send him a link.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like me and you've talked about, Steve. I got a message. I had a message I shared with you today from somebody, and I don't want to roast them or nothing. But they're asking me questions, and I've told them to do a power and test grid, and they're basically saying, I don't know how to do a power and test grid. And I said, well, check your focus. Now I don't know how to check the focus, and I'm like, well, you got bigger problems. You need to start. You need to back up, do some research before you start trying to get into doing what you're trying to do. That's the thing. And I mean, and I know me and Steve both, we try to put content out there that can help people and that's searchable and that you can, pick up a few lessons from and stuff. And that was one of the things when Kline first came to me and was like, hey, I want to get into this, is, a lot of people will get frustrated and throw their hands up, especially if they don't have, what they consider to be the best of the best equipment. So I did. I intentionally gave him like the worst laser I had. And when he learned how to use it and got proficient with it, then he has moved up and gotten better and better to the point where you've actually built some of your own files so far, haven't you?
I've built a couple files. I'm still kind of learning how to build files and have my own thing.
Yeah. And like I said, a lot of people around here, some of the people that know me and know Kline, I mean, they know we're friends and stuff. They're like, man, can you believe Kline's trying to, he's trying to step in on your game, and he's trying to, and I was like, who do you think helped him get started? I mean, it's not a competition. All right, there's plenty of work to be done, and if you do it the marketing right, there's more than either one of us can do still working full-time jobs. It's still a side hustle for me too. And then once I got into the whole, doing content and stuff like that, that took away from what I was able to do before in laser jobs. And I've quit advertising as much locally. I still do jobs. I still have people that call me. I did one last night for a lady that knows me through YouTube and Facebook that's local. And, I still take on jobs, but I don't take on as many, and I send a lot of them over to Kline's engraving. So, just because we all in it together, in my opinion. Kline comes over here and helps me when I need help. I think you help put the insulation in that wall over there and the ceiling, and he comes and helps me, and then I help him out with this kind of stuff. So it's been an adventure for him. And it's been awesome for me seeing him learn, because I do enjoy teaching folks, and that's one of the things that you can ask Ken. We worked together for a long time. I've taught him other stuff before we got into lasers, but I enjoy teaching folks and then seeing them being able to take what I've taught them and build on it. So it's pretty neat. But a lot of your stuff you've been selling through the schools because you're working as a teacher too. So
no, I'm a history teacher, so teachers love buying crafts. So a lot of the stuff that is more geared toward teachers, because that's who I see every day. So I did a bench over the weekend for the school, and I engraved the logo on it, and it turned out pretty well.
Yeah. I'm trying to catch up on these comments too, guys. I wasn't paying attention. But yeah, Jack. Yeah, y'all. I didn't realize, and I know a lot of people, and I hope nobody ever thinks that I'm trying to be short with them or that I'm trying to not help somebody. But I get emails and messages a lot of times, and it's stuff that I know. I was like, I know I went over that really thoroughly in a video, and so a lot of times I'll just, I'll tell people, hey, look, here's the video I did to try to explain that, and I'll send them a link. And I hope nobody ever gets mad at me about it, but just understand that I'm sure Steve's the same way, that when you get 30 or 40 messages or emails a day asking questions, you really can't sit down and write out a synopsis of the whole thing to each and everybody that you're trying to help. That was kind of the reason I started doing YouTube to start with, was because people would ask me questions and I would try to explain it, and it was just easier doing it in a video and then have like an archive of stuff that they could draw from. So
Yeah, I mean that's similar for me as I kept getting it, not so much how to do things, but people knew I had a laser and were curious about it. So my first couple laser videos were just, here's the machine, here's what I do, and here's how it works. Which then also developed into like, all right, I'm gonna show you how to level the bed in the CO2 laser and a few of these other things, because as I was doing them, I'm like, hey, someone's going to ask me about this sometime, so let's do a quick video on it, and that's been easier. But yes, I mean, working in IT, we try to also have like knowledge-based things so that we can reference back to them. And as a matter of fact, the college I work at has a subscription to LinkedIn Learning. So a lot of times, and people hate this because they just want us to just do it for me or show me. But we're like, hey, here's a really good module that'll walk you through learning how to do this.
yeah,
And so we try to use that as well. I mean, there's so much information out there that you're right. I don't want to have to try to reinvent the wheel through explaining it each time.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, and it's not in any way that I don't want to help somebody, but it's just you get the same question 50 times a week sometimes, and especially with some of the newer machines and stuff, because it's stuff that like the S1. I got it in here, been playing with it, and I'm having to learn it as I go. And I've had several people message me this week that have either used my profile that I built for the machine or have used some of the information that I provided. That's really, you can't really find it anywhere else. And if you do find it, you got to dig through so many layers to try to put it all together. And so that's what I try to do a lot of times is I do the research for folks, and then I test the theories or test what I find, and then I try to come up with a working way of doing it, and then put it together in an understandable format and put it out there. And like I said, it's been really really fun. Because I said I started out like Kline. I mean, I was doing tumblers, and I was doing making signs for people, and babies announcements and wedding signs, and so that's all I was doing. And then I was posting pictures on my Facebook page, and people started messaging me asking me questions about, hey, how do you do this? Hey, how do you do that? How do you do this? And boom, birth of YouTube. you know, and
Mhm.
and so and Kline, I've been joking with Kline about when he's going to start his channel, but he said he's just trying to learn the craft right
Yeah.
now and make a little money because that's that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And I've told him he can come over here and hang out, or we can patch him in, but he doesn't have any very good internet at his house either, so that's a big hang up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, Chris has a good point here too. And I would argue that I think YouTube's, while you can get some garbage on there, I would say the real garbage that you got to filter through is a lot of the forums, the Facebook groups, and things like. I see a lot of good intentioned bad information being given out in some of these groups, and I mean it could be a full-time job just going out there and answering questions and correcting things and such. But with that, I mean, that's where I think being consistent as like Clack and I as creators is trying to be consistent, try to be honest. I mean, he shows using it legitimately as his side business. It's not just I get this machine in, I play with it for a while, I say what I say about it, and then you never see it again. He's using it in and out. And for me, in a similar vein, as I do a lot of stuff, I don't necessarily share all of my business side of things in here, but I've used a lot of machines over the past 5-7 years as a side business, and so I hopefully that kind of comes across as I'm more than just doing this to make videos.
Well, the fact that
Um,
you got some wood behind you kind of helps.
yeah, yeah, well, yeah, and so it's and I'm the type who I will notice what's in the background of a photo or a video. So it's I try to make sure it's not too cluttered. But then there's the shops that it's like it's spotless, it's clean, and you're like, do you do any real making and creating in there? So,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's
um,
what a lot of people ask me a lot of times, and people have expressed that to me about my channel as well as yours. Is you can tell it's not just a movie set. You know what I mean? It's there's some work going on there. Yeah, Chris. Yeah, Chris. Early on, there was somebody that claimed that that I was on a green screen and that the shot really wasn't behind me or something like that. But but
yeah,
yeah,
no,
you know,
these aren't green screens. I can pick up these slabs. They're it's real wood.
yeah, but yeah, it's been crazy, guys. Uh, just joined in from Enterprise, and I'm not sure what I missed. You can always go back and watch it on the replay if you want to, Brady. We've basically just been shooting the breeze so far. Kline's talking about his up and coming Kline's engraving, and now you can go check out his Facebook page if y'all want to do that. I think I did. I put a link to your page in the description. I think I did, but I'm not sure. But it's Kline's engraving, and I'll type that in here. But he's trying to build his Facebook page up, not necessarily because he's wanting to get into the creating content so far, but he does use it to get a lot of work and get jobs. And that's one thing that I would say, and I think Kline can vouch for that, is Facebook is probably the cheapest marketing strategy that you can have.
Yeah.
And in certain communities, in certain neighborhoods, it actually works pretty well. If nothing else, just use it as a brag page. When you make something cool, put a picture of it out there. You don't have to have stuff for sale. Just brag about it. Just throw your stuff out there. Just use it as a gallery where people can come through there, look through your photos, and look at the kind of stuff that you do. Because what you'll end up with, and I'm sure Kline, I know for a fact, has had it, is they may not want what it is that you've made, but they're going to be like, hey, I see you made this, but could you make something that looks like that?
Yeah.
And I got one this week. A girl's like, hey, I could order this on Etsy, but I know you and I know where you are, and I'd really like to have it, sometime this week. Could you think you could get it done? And it was literally an 8-inch engraved. So I'm like, well, yeah, I can do that while I'm sweeping the floor. So I got it and set it on a machine, let it run while I was vacuuming the shop out, and boom, she's happy. And then, like I said, if you can get people to share that stuff, especially in your community, that helps out. And then you got in with a couple of barbecue places and some other stuff that you're working on, some like cutting boards and stuff for those. So
just
Jeff wants to know if you've gone mobile yet.
no, I haven't gone mobile yet. I'm working on it, and I don't have.
You said you
set
do
it.
have an event though.
I do have an event coming up. We're working on that now, trying to get things together and get our booth, and we're just going to see how it goes. I don't know how it's going to look, but we're going to try it anyway.
Well, I know a guy that's got tables and tablecloths and
Yeah, I know a guy.
stuff. So I don't know that you want to pull the portable Clack Shack over there. He's kind of intimidated by my trailer. It's bigger than his truck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I agree, Mark. If you're trying to pay your house note, definitely don't depend on Facebook.
Yeah.
But when you're first starting out and you're just trying to get your feet wet and you're trying to get some jobs and build that foundation, it beats spending $400 a month advertising on the radio or whatever. Because if you don't have the skills to acquire those customers and maintain those customers and keep those customers happy, you're wasting your money if you're paying for advertisement. Because the last thing you want to do is pay a bunch of money for advertisement, and in the first 2 or 3 jobs that you get are something that either you can't handle or you can't turn it out as fast as they want you to, and then you get a bad reputation. Bad publicity is worse than no publicity at all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm assuming most everybody that's doing this, I mean, there are exceptions. I'm sure there are exceptions, but most everybody is going to start out hobby to side hustle to maybe, hey, when I retire, this is what I'm going to do. It's a big leap if you're going from a Monday through Friday straight out to try to make a living and you've never done it, before. That's a really risky maneuver.
Yeah, I see people ask that all the time in various groups and such, and you're like, even legitimate brick and mortar businesses, you know, you're talking a couple of years minimum before you start actually pulling a profit, let alone, you know,
Yeah.
being able to pay you that much yourself as the owner. So, you know, it's a tough thing. And starting out as a side business, using some free advertising through Facebook and other, you know, social media and social circles is a good way to do it.
Yeah. ET, that if you looking at that blueprint, there should be the ledge built into there. That's where the machine sits. If you're looking at the enclosure Zilla plans, the ledge around the edge of the machine, that's where the machine sits. Everything from that point below is the lift area. So I don't know for sure what you're looking at, but let me look at it and make sure. But that's unless I'm mistaken, enclosure Zilla, yes. Yeah, the ledge on that one is you should be able to see it. It's got the measurements somewhere on there. 12.5, 17.5. I'm not real sure. I'd have to go back and sit down and look at it, but there's a ledge on there that is right inside the door as it opens. And I'm not sure if that's all the pages to this thing or not. But I have to say this is 101. But there's going to be a little bit of variable depending on how you go about it. If you use the same lift I use, if you use the same honeycomb, but it may take you a little calculations. But the way to figure that out is once you build the box, sit the lift in there, raise it all the way up as high as it'll go, mark the side of the box where it raises up to, and that is where you want the surface of your deck for the machine to sit on. And mine literally has a 4-inch strip around the edge that the machine sits on. So, yeah, Chris, it takes, like I said, I started doing stuff on Facebook back in whenever COVID hit, 2020, 2019, 2020. Most of it was sawmill related and woodworking stuff. And I was building, quilt ladders and stove covers and doing a few cutting boards and stuff like that. And that's what sparked me wanting to get into lasers. And I didn't get into the lasers until late 2021. I think it was October of 2021 when I got my first laser. And then I started putting more pictures of projects and of stuff. And then the Facebook page got to where it was pulling me in enough money to where, I bought my second machine. And then it just got crazy. To where I was coming home every day from work having to do laser jobs or woodworking jobs. And now I've got to where I limit myself as far as how many jobs I take in. Because it got to where I could not fulfill the orders I had coming in. So I had to gear it back a little bit. I've got buddies that have CNCs in my area. Tip over at Tip's Hammer in Clanton. I send him all the CNC work. I got Kline. I send a lot of laser engraving work too. I got another buddy of mine down on the south end of the county that has a sawmill. I send him the sawmill work. So I send to other people the work that I can't do now. And I've had to dial it back so that I can still have a little free time and time to do other things. Especially with, like Steve, content creation, it sometimes it comes easy, sometimes not so much. And it does consume, it will consume your entire day to make a 20-minute video. So you have to make allotments to be able to do that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Dale, I actually had a Kentalk, and I run one for a long time. It was a 10 watt though. Mm-hmm. They haven't sent me. Matter of fact, you had it for a while.
I had it for a little while. It's a pretty good machine.
The Kentalk, basically, in my opinion, was a rebranded Atom Stack. Was it A10? It looked just like the Atom Stack. The whole way it operated was an Atom Stack. But it's not a bad machine. There's a lot of I like to say rebranded machines, and Steve can vouch for me on this, to where you get one of the major name machines and then one of these lesser known machines and put them side by side, and there's 10 cents worth of difference between the two. There's a lot of those out there that are actually really good machines, and then there's some of them that don't quite live up to what the other ones do. But with the Kentalk, it did a good job. It actually had the one of the first ones that had the knob that you could set the focus with, instead of having to use a little just loosen the bolt, let it fall. It actually had a knob you could lower it and raise it with. But yeah, it's interesting.
As this one scrolled by a little bit ago, but I saw it, and Ken was talking about an Ohmtech red and black 80 watt, which is very similar to my generic black red and black CO2. Um, the Chuck rotary about doing tumblers. What I can say is, first, I don't know if you've gotten it hooked up yet, but generally there might be a plug you actually have to swap on the board, uh, and that will then hook into the port within the laser area. But I would recommend get yourself a couple of like dowels to first test on, chuck that up into there, do some tests so that you can figure out the orientation, double check the steps per rotation, stuff like that. And then once you get into tumblers, it's really just going to be running your speed tests to figure it out, your material on there. But I would sort out the kind of the orientation and the calibration of the rotary on some inexpensive, like go buy a wooden hanger rod or something like that. They're about 1.25 inches in diameter or something like that, and burn through that a bit on that chuck and get it dialed in that way.
Yeah, I tell you another thing too. Then this is what I taught Kline, and I think he still uses it. Is if you got any empty soda cans, Coke cans sitting around, wrap those things in some blue painter's tape or some green tape, and they're really good for confirming your design before you stick the tumbler in there to make sure you've got oriented right and everything. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like I said, just grab a some kind of drink can, energy drink can, whatever. Wrap it with some blue tape or the green works better, but blue will work. But wrap it with that green tape and do a little test burn to make sure that you're not going backwards before you put the tumbler in there.
Make sure you
Yeah,
do you're going to want
uh,
that power way down.
running light burn, you got to remember to enable that rotary, and then using a chuck style, you do need to make sure you measure the diameter and input that into your rotary setup every time you change to a different size object. Otherwise, your things will come out looking a little wonky. So,
Yeah.
um,
Steve's asking about a good source for ammo cans. The only ones that I've ever really bought, I think I got some that came from, was it Harbor Freight maybe brought to me, and I think some more that came from Academy. I don't buy like when you say bulk, I'm not going to buy like 50 or 60 ammo cans. Typically, I think the one that I did was a wedding. It was like gift baskets for a wedding, and I think we did like 6 or 8 of them, and I think they got them at Academy. The person who wanted them done brought them to me and brought me an extra for testing. Matter of fact, I've still got the extra one that you had for testing. I use it as a toolbox in my tractor.
I, mine are buried right now, but I've got a couple that I've engraved on. And yeah, the ones, if you've got a local Harbor Freight, they're okay. They're definitely new. Otherwise, if you've got a sporting store around that might have them, you could talk with them about maybe doing a larger order. But
Chris said he gets a 10 cent. Man, 10 cents a can. That's pretty good. He said they always stop to look at his test cans when he can take them in. They're like, "What's going on with this? It's got lines all over it."
well, I'll imagine they get that 10 cents because they're probably charged that when they
Yeah,
purchase them. A lot of them are like that. We don't have that here. I don't know what the going rate is for aluminum around here. It always seems like it's
it takes a lot of them to get $1. I'll tell you
pretty
that because
pretty
I
low. Yeah.
typically smash mine, and then I got a big bin. I keep them in up there until I get enough that I have to load them with the tractor, and I take them to the scrapyard. So I used to melt them down myself and make ingots out of them, but that
Hmm.
that got to where it was just it was a lot of work. There you go. There's your one. We've had this discussion a lot.
Uh, so really, for the most part, on honeycombs, any sort of like citrus-based degreaser type thing
Yeah.
will work fairly well for 90% of it. In some cases, where you get some more of the glues on there, you might need something a little more oomph to it, and so like oven cleaner works. But I'll get the LA's Awesome or Dawn Power Wash, just spray it on there, let it soak for a few minutes, rinse it off, and just make sure it's fully dried so it doesn't rust. And you're not going to get it pristine clean, but you're trying to get the bulk of the kind of the schmutzy stuff off there. So it shouldn't take more than a 10-minute soak and a 2-minute rinse. Set it in the sun or get your blow dryer on it and be good to go.
Yeah, I use like the cheapest oven cleaner that you can buy from Dollar General, and like I said, I'll let it soak for 10 or 15 minutes. Hit it with the water hose, spray it again, let it sit for 10 or 15 minutes, spray it with the water hose, and then I use my leaf blower and just prop it up against the side of the building and blow through it with a leaf blower to get the majority of the water out of it, and then just bring it inside and it'll dry relatively quick. Like I said, if you're really in a hurry, I guess you could use a heat gun or something. But I usually clean mine when I'm planning on having the machine shut down for a while, so I don't have to worry about any moisture. Yeah, Dale, if it's got a cloudy spot in the middle of the lens, you may want to look into trying to find a new lens for it, because that typically is going to impair its ability to cut. So my recommendation would be to try to see if you can find a new lens for it. And I don't know if it fits the same one as the X tools and the P2s and stuff, or the P20s, but Steve sells some that fit X tool, and I can tell you they fit the X tools and they fit the H or P20. So I don't know how many other machines they will fit. He can tell you.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that use the same kind of brass end on these, and so for the most part they will fit. I've run into a couple of Eitzers that have had smaller glass in there instead of the they're around 14-ish millimeter. Mine are 12 and a half. They're about half inch, and so they fit well. But then you get into some like Sculpt Fun and others, and they have it's like 10 millimeters or smaller, and those are kind of hard to find. So yeah, if you can find them through either the vendor, the laser, or otherwise, like I say, Sculpt Fun's one of them, and there's another one that's escaping me right now. They do have replacement lenses for those, but a lot of them are using that kind of, it's like a 16 to 17 millimeter outer diameter brass end, and then inside diameter is about 14. That works well.
Yeah. JT's asking what's the best software to start using. In my opinion, Lightburn. Go ahead and jump on it and learn it. As far as versatility of the number of machines, I mean, that's not, you never used anything but Lightburn,
I
have you?
haven't used anything but Lightburn. It's easy to use, all the tools and things, and I don't see me using anything else if I don't have to. I like it. It works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, for most of the lasers, that works very well. And they give you a 30-day free trial. It's full featured, so it's definitely worth at least trying out. The nice thing there is that you jump up into a CO2 laser. Chances are you can still use Lightburn. You just might need to upgrade your license type. You jump from most diode lasers; they will work with it. You're getting into some of these specialty lasers, though, as we're seeing with the X-Tool S1, the We Create Vision, some of these that have more advanced features where they work with Lightburn, but some other features don't, because those are the little more proprietary things. So you got to be a little bit careful on if you're dependent on those features working, you might need to stick with their stock software. But for the most part, a Lightburn is a very good tool to learn, as it's going to work with 90% of the lasers out there.
Yeah. Well, that's just like the S1. I mean, the S1, you get like 90% of the features, but you do lose a couple if you try to run it in Lightburn. And depending on what job, I could see with the S1, I could see me bouncing, depending on the job, between XCS and Lightburn. If it's something that I've already got an image and I'm just slapping it on something, I'll just use XCS. If I've got to design because I'm more comfortable in Lightburn, then I'm going to design it in Lightburn. I may export it as an SVG and drag it into XCS, but I'm going to start out in Lightburn because that's where I'm most comfortable. Bill, I have a Woodmiser LX25. It's a all manual, bare bones sawmill. That was it hurt as bad as I needed it to muster up the $5,000 to go get that thing. And it's done me a good job. I've had it for several years now, and I made my money back on the sawmill. I think in the first year and a half. I also bought a sawmill. I bought a band sharpener. I got my own sharpener and my own setter. So I started making money back from other hobby mills. I would sharpen their blades for them too. So, between selling the wood and selling, cutting stuff up for people and sharpening blades for other people, I think I wound up, it took me like a year and a half to make back I think it was my total investment in the sawmill stuff was like $6,500 for the trailer upgrades, the sharpener and all that. And it took me about a year and a half to make all my money back. But now that was coming home from work, running the sawmill almost every day just to try to get that money coming in. But yeah, somebody was saying a while ago they see it in these Facebook groups all the time. Somebody going, "Hey, I got a job for 100 tumblers. Does anybody got any settings to start with?" And if you're asking that question, guys, that's where I'm saying, play with it, use it as a hobby before you go to advertising. Because could you imagine? I mean, because you remember your first tumbler job.
Oh yeah.
I mean that's the kind of stuff that will get people discouraged and get them discouraged really fast.
Yeah, make a lot of gifts
Yeah.
because it'll give you a lot of practice, and as they start getting better, you'll have some things out there with people that can help you advertise. So
Mike's asking, is there anything to mineral glass lenses? Mike, the only thing I can think of, and I don't know if this is the case, is I know when I built my wood heater, uh, in order to put glass in a wood heater, you can't use glass per se, especially if you're going to be burning oak and hickory, because the melting temperature of glass is obtainable in a coal bed of a wooden heater, especially if you have it properly vented so that it gets airflow through there. So you have to use what is referred to as ceramic glass. It's I don't know if that's the same thing that they're doing. And in that case, it's not actually glass. It's basically clear ceramic, which has a much, much higher melting point than regular glass. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, or I suspect that's probably not the case with these laser lenses, but it could be. I don't know what they're referring to. It could just be that it's coated with some type of mineral.
yeah, I mean, so mineral glass is supposed to be more durable, but you also can't polish it. So, uh, when you're talking about the cover lenses, in my mind, you want them to be as clear as possible, and you want them to be as cheap as possible because they are a consumable.
Yes.
So you can spend more and get mineral glass lenses, and they may last longer for you. But as they start to degrade, are you going to want to try to milk them for more because you paid more for them versus just swapping them out with an inexpensive piece of glass? So I don't know if it does anything more than possibly give you a longer lifespan, but you got to remember all it takes is a little bit of dust on there, and that's going to fuse on the glass, and it can be a small etch, it can be real cloudy. It's kind of just it's shot your lens. So
Yeah.
that's my mind is keep it as cheap as possible so that you can just swap it out, put a fresh one in, and not worry about it. But you can definitely use them. But I personally just feel that it's extra money that could just be gone as quickly as clear glass lenses.
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, that's kind of like when you buy paper plates. You can buy those really nice paper plates that that you could like literally carry a whole turkey on, or you can get the cheap ones. It's just, I guess it would be personal preference. Yes, the more expensive ones are better, but at what point do you just not, what I mean? Is it not worth it? That'd be my thing. I run the glass that you have, and I haven't had any problems other than when I had that right before my air compressor died on me. I had a really bad problem, and I didn't understand why at the time, and I didn't realize it until after the air compressor died. But I was getting a lot of moisture in my airlines, and I went through a couple of them, but it was because my airline was blowing water onto the lens while it was hot, and it was cracking them. So once my air compressor died and I replaced it, then I realized what the problem I was having was. But I went through about 2 lenses in a month, and I haven't went through 2 lenses in 2 years. So that was kind of concerning. But it was because I was getting water spray inside the cone, the air assist cone.
Yeah. Yeah, anything you can do to keep debris away from that, obviously you don't want moisture coming through your air assist, but even taking time to really dial in and get good airflow so that the smoke's getting extracted away from the module. So like downdraft tables or, having your air exhaust down underneath your honeycomb and such so that it's drawing it down and away from that module, it's just going to help prolong that lens.
Running air assist.
Yeah.
Kline learned that one the hard
I
way.
learned that the hard way.
Kline first got into it. He was bad to not run air assist, and I think you went through what 2 lenses.
2 lenses. I was engraving leather for hat patches, and undoubtedly I was running it a little too hot, and it just I cracked the lens, brought it over here. When you knew, you just really I didn't know what happened to it. And I'm like, oh, I've tore this up. So I brought it back over here. Clack looked at it and he said, all right, you broke a lens. Took it back. Broke another one.
Yeah, like the day you took it home or something, you broke another one. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? Are you not running air assist? He's like, well, I was engraved in leather. I didn't think I needed to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're dirtying these lenses up so fast that it's killing them.
Cleaning your machine is vital. Like I'll run a couple of jobs and then I'll just stop and clean the lenses just to make, even if they don't need it.
Yeah, because I was going to resell Kline the lenses I got from Steve. I was going to mark them up to $10 a piece and install them. And Kline, he got a handle on his cleaning regimen shortly afterwards.
Because I didn't want to spend $10.
I mean, I hate to price gouge Steve, but I had the lenses and he needed them.
Well,
like $10
supply and demand, right?
Yeah. $10 installed. I mean, I don't think that's bad. But yeah.
So they're asking with a diode laser, how often would you disassemble and clean the lens? That's a very subjective thing. I mean, and it depends on what you're burning. I've played around with like the Norton white tile or with spray painted canvases. That stuff splatters everywhere. And I felt like I almost needed to stop the job and clean off the air assist cone because it was just getting gooped up, and it was, I had low pressure air going on it to keep it off there. But and then you can have other material that hardly a little bit of wisp. Like I say, if you've got your air pulling it down, it's not going to get as bad. But I would definitely, if you're running a solid day, I would maybe take a pause and give it a quick wipe down, and then at the end of the day, take your air assist off, check that lens, just give it a quick cleaning of alcohol. But if you're running, some real sooty stuff or some real smoky stuff, you might need to do it after a couple jobs. So,
oh yeah, there's a lot of variables that go into that. Like you said, how fast the laser head's moving. If you're going fast and you're doing a lot of engraving but not a whole lot of cutting, typically you're moving fast enough that stuff's not going to get in there as much. But if you don't have adequate ventilation, if you look into your laser and it looks like you're checking on the Boston butt on the 4th of July, then you don't have enough ventilation. And if you don't have enough ventilation, that module is doing nothing but just circulating that dirty, dusty mess through your machine. So therefore, you're going to have to clean more often than if you look in there and you really can't tell you're burning anything. And like Steve said, that's why I like my my bottom extraction from my smoke. I like to where when I'm running a job, you can look in my machine and you can't really tell it's cutting anything because there's no smoke visible. My smoke gets sucked through the honeycomb and goes out the back. So that's a big thing, and all those little things go in together. I'll tell you another thing that I'm learning. Some of these different machines, depending on how the air assist is built, seems to keep the lens a little cleaner longer. The algo, the algo has a unique way that they have put the air assist in there, and it uses a channel and it comes into the cone. The lens on that machine is staying remarkably clean, despite the fact that the nozzle just will have stuff hanging off of it, and you have to wipe it. The nozzles actually stay, the lens stays pretty clean. I've had to clean it a couple of times, and it had a little bit of stuff on it, but for the most part, I've done learned now that about every 3 times I clean the end of the cone off, I can get by before I have to actually clean the lens, because the way that air assist, if you run the air assist, the way that air assist nozzle works, it actually does keep that lens fairly clean. So there's a lot of variables, like you said, Steve. I mean, I think air handling inside enclosures is what gets a lot of people, because especially if you're using an enclosure that vents out the top or out the back or out the side, you're not going to have as clean of an environment for that machine to operate in as if you pull it out the bottom and you have fresh air coming in out at the top. It does make a difference. The V35 over here, it makes a huge difference, because the air comes in my enclosure up top, it goes through the honeycomb, it goes out at the bottom, and it never gets circled back through the machine. Echo, turn off the air compressor.
Okay.
So
Echo, turn off the air compressor in the shack.
JT is also asking, what's best to start with, CO2 or diode laser? Says they've got both, but haven't started with either. I would say the diode is probably a little bit easier from the standpoint of there are fewer things to make sure are aligned to get it working. One of the biggest frustrations of people with CO2 lasers that are new to it is you've got to align 3 mirrors through a focus lens to get your beam working right. And, we've all seen how things get shipped around here. Chances of it coming in alignment is risky at best. So it can be frustrating to get your new machine and trying to learn it and not know why am I getting a partial beam, or why is my power so low, or why is it not doing anything at all, because the beam is shooting off towards your ceiling instead of in towards the lens. So now that being said, the CO2 doesn't have quite as many limitations on materials as the diode has, and they tend to be a little more powerful. So, once you get past the mechanical part of the CO2, there are definitely some advantages to it. But from a simplicity's sake, I think the diodes are far easier for people to get started and manage and maintain them.
And especially if you have a smaller work area, like a lot of people do, and you don't have room for something that's, the size of a stove. Because I've got the Monport M40, and between it and the chiller, it takes up a pretty good bit of space. So I think that's a lot of reason that people get into diodes first. And I just kind of got stuck with diodes because I like them. They're versatile. I can do stuff with them. And like I said, I don't have to, I've got this little 2-foot area that's, 4 foot long, and I can do stuff that, in order to do what I can do in this machine, I would have to have, a 60-watt CO2 with a 40-inch bed to be able to do what I can do with this machine. And that thing's going to take up a lot more room. Plus, then I got to have a chiller to go with it. So, I mean, to me, this works for me. It doesn't work for everybody, but it works for me.
Mm. But as you get into it and as you're growing your business, if that's what you're doing, I definitely feel there is a purpose for both in the long run. But for most people, I'm able to do most everything I want to with the diodes, and that's why I've been focusing on them this past year and a half, is because it's worked for me so well, and they keep advancing. Now I am going to be hopefully jumping back into some CO2 content here over the next couple months. Because I do have, Christmas time, acrylic, and doing clear acrylic, being able to add that into your offerings is huge. And you just can't touch that with you can engrave them, but you can't cut out acrylic ornaments like you can with a CO2. So that's where I'm going to get spun up again.
Around. If it wasn't for clear, I don't know that I'd keep the Monport around, because all the other machines that I have basically can do what it does. especially now that I've got the S1 because it's a 40-watt diode. Cutting capability, it's just as capable as the M40 is, but it still will not touch clear. So
Um, so
there's a good question.
KB's asking, off the top of your heads, 20-watt diode laser recommendations. Looking at the 20-watt longer Ray 5. The best deal that I know of right now, and I think it's still going on, is if you're looking at Amazon at the Acer P20, they've got it marked. It's $1,000 machine, but they have a 50% off coupon. So it's just a little bit more than it was. It was like $450 a couple weeks ago. And then I think you could even get the extensions with it. I don't know that. Yep, I think you can still get the free extension kit with it right now. So for about $500, you can get a 20-watt laser that's extended. And the Acer, I'm not sure on the longer Ray 5 if that's the 430 millimeter width. I know the B1 is around 420.
So that the longer the Ray 5 now, I don't know about the 20-watt model, but the one that I had was a 10-watt and it did not have limit switches.
Okay.
So it was basically, it was hard to run it from running absolute coordinates. Now the B4 or is it B1 longer B1? Me and you both have one of those, and then that's a nice machine. But I don't know if the price. I don't know if they can even beat that Acer price right now.
But yeah, the Acer is a pretty good deal. We both had the P20 and or have upgraded to their others, and so that's one it's hard to not recommend, especially since you can get the extension with it and for about $500. So that would be one I would definitely look at. However, the longer lasers that we've tried out were very nice machines. The only issue I had with it was really the air assist cone needed to be tweaked, but you could just drop on any like X-Tool one and that works pretty well.
Yeah, he's saying the new Ray 5 apparently does have limit switches, which is an advantage. But yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, I can't say that I wouldn't recommend the longer, but just price wise, that Acer at that deal is pretty good. So.
Didn't you put a link down there to the Amazon where they're having that sale?
Yeah, I did. There's
Chris is asking.
I put it in my chat. Hopefully, it came through to yours. And there's you got to click the apply 50% coupon, and then there's the extra savings thing underneath there. So you got to look at all those. But that should bring it to be
in the chat. I see it on the screen right there.
Yeah, it should be a $500 machine once you apply that coupon, and then you can also go to the promo and add the extension kit. So that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I think they were bundling it at one time with the chuck too, weren't they? And that's like the best chuck on the market, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think during Prime, their what was it? Their Prime, whatever Prime deal days they just had a week or so ago. They had a really early in the morning. You could get it. I think it was under $500. You could get the free extension kit and the rotary for a song, and that was pretty good. But
yeah. North Alabama barbecue. I don't know if don't fully understand how to do. Absolute coordinates basically just means you operate off of absolute. Like home is home, and then your workspace is a dedicated size. So,
yeah, and but I haven't played around with it in XCS. The new update added absolute coordinates. I've used it in Lightburn. The thing that I don't like about X-Tool P20 Pro is, so I'll have it home and that's fine. And then I can work on absolute coordinates. That's fine. I have my job where it homes to the back center. That's fine. If I hit stop in the middle of a job, it seems to forget completely where it's at. And now you got to remember to rehome it to make sure that it's going to be working again in absolute coordinates. So
yeah,
there's a couple, most of the others that I work with that if I hit stop, it seems to remember that, okay, I just parked here, but that's just the one little little thing
Yeah.
I've at least been noticing with my my D1 Pro. I love working in absolute coordinates myself. Homing the machine, and then I set it to at the end just park the back center or the back corner just so it gets it out of the way. But
Yeah. Here we go. Chris is asking. He says, "New to Laser World. What's your opinion of the new X Tool S1?" I mean, so far I like it. Now, I am spoiled when it comes to being able to access my entire work area. The way the lid is taking some getting used to, and especially in an XCS, the machine doesn't always park out of the way. Like Steve said, I like for my machine when it's through doing what it's supposed to do, get back out of the way so that I can access my entire work area. That's something I'm having to work through with XCS because it doesn't do that. But all in all, power output, speed, the way that it works, uh, smoke handling, the way it's built, everything about it so far, I like. I wish they'd have added a camera. Not that you absolutely have to have it using XCS, but I also like running Lightburn a lot. So it would really come in handy with Lightburn. Now, like I said, I'm not going to make any guarantees that I'm not going to engineer something, maybe 3D print a mount for a camera and wind up putting a camera in it. But currently, it does not have a camera in it from Xtool. But I do have the S1 40 watt, and I got an email the other day. They're shipping me the riser as well as the chuck for it. So hopefully I'll be able to test it with some taller stuff. I guess they saw the part in my video where I said I didn't like the fact that I couldn't do 3/4 inch material without taking the honeycomb out. So they sent me the riser. And then when I inquired, is this just a riser or what is it? They said, no, we're sending you the chuck to go with it. So I guess I'm going to end up trying to see how it does on tumblers before it's all said and done. But so far, I like the machine, and I've got it set up. I don't know if you saw pictures of my little cart or not. Let me see if I get my little camera spun around here. I don't know if I've got that set appropriately.
Pull it.
No, I'll just turn this camera around there so they can see that. But I bought myself a little cart for it, and it sits on that cart now. And until I can come up with a better solution, that's going to have to work because I can't. Like I said, I got to keep my mon port around because I got to cut clear stuff. I don't want to get rid of either two of these machines, so I don't really know where else I'm going to keep the S1 right now, except for the cart. So I did buy myself a 36 by 24 cart, and it's working really well for being able to, keep it handy when I do need it. I can roll it over here, ventilate it, power it with an extension cord, run it off of Wi-Fi, and everything works good. So. But yeah, Jim, I actually, like I said, if you go to my Facebook page, there's actually a link to that cart on Amazon. Win makes the cart, and it says it'll hold 400 pounds. I don't really want to try putting 400 pounds on it. I don't know if they mean like including the cart weight and the bottom or what, but it holds the S1 really well. And right now, that's where it's going to be for the moment. I guess you could call it my crash cart.
There you go. I'm gonna hop on that.
Well, Kline said he's fixing to go, guys. So if y'all want to,
it was great to be here with you. I appreciate you having me.
But
well,
so
great to have you here, Kline.
Y'all go check out his page and give him a like thumbs up, thumbs down, boo, whatever, over on his Facebook page.
Hopefully not a thumbs down, boy.
Hey, thumbs downs count too, don't they, Steve?
Yeah. Do they have that on Facebook anymore? I don't know that you can. So.
I appreciate you, Brian. I mean, it's always a good time when Kline's here. We'll see y'all later. Y'all have a good night.
Yes, sir. He got to sit on the newly manufactured Clack Shack stool. My salvaged stool. This is the chair that I bought and it broke. And I made me a stool bottom for it and put it back together. So, ha! See you, dude. Be careful. Watch out for them deer. They moving out there tonight. Yeah, they like run across my driveway. They'll run into the side of your car if you don't watch it.
Stubber Bull's asking, is there anything you can do on clear acrylic to make you be able to cut it with a X2S 140 watt, or is it just nature of the beast? No, unfortunately, the wavelength of the blue light diodes just pass through it. It doesn't interact with it at all. So the only way you can get it to interact with it is to put a masking on it, and then it's basically using that as a binder. And so you'll be able to etch down into it, but once it gets through that paint layer and starts getting back into the clear, it's not going to be able to cut. So, in theory, you could cut, spray, cut, spray, cut, spray, but it's going to be a jagged, ugly mess by the time you finish that. So, no, it's just the nature of the beast. It's just the nature of the beast with the blue light diodes. You just need a different wavelength to interact with it.
Yeah, now, other colors, especially black, but clear anything, you're not going to touch it with a diode without coating it with something.
Yeah, but even so, the edge you get on it, it's nowhere near what you can touch with the CO2. Almost polishes it once you get your settings dialed in. It's almost a polished edge, whereas with the diodes, even on the ideal settings, it's okay, but it's almost more like a matte finish cut. So.
Yeah. Well, I've got mine on black, especially black 3mm. I've got mine cutting pretty smooth, but if you have to do more than one pass, you can hang up with a smooth cut.
Yeah.
What is it now? I can't miss. Yeah, that is a lot of weight, but now that was on the little thin cart that I was using. I have since got a bigger cart, but yeah, that is a lot of weight and it is a lot of momentum. But it doesn't affect with it. It doesn't affect the machine. But to be able to engrave pine or most plywoods at 400 millimeters a second and actually get a noticeable engrave is just ridiculous. So, I mean, there are some cosmetic things about the S1 that I would have probably done differently, but I will say, if nothing else, high-speed engraving, it does it, and it does it pretty well. So far, so good. And I was a little intimidated with having to clean that thing until I took it apart, and I was like, okay, it's actually easier to clean than a D1 is, so it's not bad. What we got going on here?
So I know someone was asking earlier if we had upgraded to Lightburn 1.4.3. Have you done that yet?
I've got whatever the newest one is. Hang on, see what it is.
So you probably have. I keep clicking ignore this week. I haven't updated mine.
Yep. Check for update. Yeah, I'm at 1.4.03 and have been for quite some time because I haven't updated in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. I usually with Lightburn. I keep the old versions. Like when I download a version, I keep those just in case I want to revert back. But typically with Lightburn, I haven't run into any problems since the early days of my X tool when there was a few little quirky things that happened with updates. I haven't had that happen in quite a while with X tool or with any of the machines that I run
now. So Robert was saying with that version, has issue changed COM ports automatically? 8s or V35 now recognizes the longer RAID 5 settings and vice versa. I can't speak to that. I know, a lot of these will recognize each other. If you select the wrong device and you select the right COM port, it will try to operate with that profile. And your COM ports can change just by changing USB ports and plugging things in different orders. Whichever one turns on or off first. So those can pop up differently. But I don't know. Like I said, I haven't pushed the update on mine yet, so I can't speak to any.
Now, a lot of the machines use that same CH340 driver, and so to the computer itself, the machines look no different. What you have to be careful of and watch for, because like, the Acer, the Atom Stacks, and I think even the Longers, I think they all basically run the same controller, like the chip. Now, I know there's some differences, but it recognizes it as the same. But like it will send settings to it. But what you have to do is if you don't know your port numbers, which I got mine on a little piece of tape stuck to my enclosure so that I don't forget them. But if you do select a port number, if you'll watch in the command console, typically, especially with the Acer, you'll see it acknowledge what machine it is. The Mon port, like the Mon port will pop up, Mon port M40. The X Tool S1 will pop up in the console. It'll say X Tool S1. So if you'll watch that, that helps keep sorted out which machine you're actually communicating with through that instance of Lightburn. Because trust me, I've hit home before and the wrong one go home. So, and that could be a bit concerning, especially when you got something expensive you're working on and you hit the button and the wrong machine moves. It'll get you nervous.
Yeah. Let's see.
Mark, those carts are pretty nice. Just saying, throwing that out there. I had to have something. Had to come up with something to do with it.
There's a second half to Robert's question. It looks like saying the graphics and text look good on the workspace, but engraves backwards. Have to invert text and graphics for them to engrave properly. I would check to make sure your origin hasn't changed. If that's in the wrong corner, that can cause your text and things to be backwards or upside down. So double check that is correct per your machine. Some of them like the Xtool D1 where the origin is in the back left. When you develop a file in there and then you switch to the other machine, all of a sudden it's backwards and upside down in the software too. So because that origin changed. So I would check on that in your profiles.
Yeah, that's annoying when you when you make a file for one machine and you have to, especially with text in it. It's not that bad unless there's text, because most of the time you can just mirror it and it fixes it. But if it's text,
Yeah.
it gets all wonky sometimes. Not a whole lot there, Brent. Just hanging out with you guys. Super
I think
Acer, thanks to Steve.
I think. Well, I make no apologies for sharing information. I think Victor's asked this a few times. He's wondering about glass bakeware, and he's trying to engrave glass pie plates. Have you tried that at all?
Most of those, like if it's bakeware, it's technically not going to be glass. If it's Pyrex, that's
Right.
that conversation we had earlier about glass versus clear ceramic. I do know that Pyrex, because in order to be used as bakeware or be safe to cook in, a lot of that's not actually glass. It is actually clear ceramic. So there's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a lot tougher. So as we're like regular glass, you can spray it and hit it with the laser, and you'll get enough heat caught by that black layer to cause it to chip. If you're looking at the melting point of that Pyrex or that glass cookware, you're going to have to really hammer it to be able to melt it. So that's probably what's going on with that. Hang on, and I'll try to see. I can't remember the exact temperatures, but I know I had to do a lot of research. But yeah, Pyrex is technically borosilicate glass, which is different from other glass, and it has a high resistance to chemical exposure, thermal expansion, or thermal shock, which basically means anything to do with your laser generating heat to it is not going to affect it the same as it will regular glass. So I would say that's probably what's going on. If it's rated for cooking on, and it's clear, that's probably going to be an issue with you with it. But yeah, Pyrex is specifically made to not chip or fracture or anything like that when it gets hot, or when it gets hot to cold, cold to hot. And so it's kind of made basically for the purpose of defeating a laser. So that's probably what you're running into. And if you want to, like I said, if you want to search that, just do, standard glass versus cookware glass, and look at some of the differences in it. I think it's got a higher level of like silica, and it's got carbon. It's a whole bunch of sciencey stuff, but basically it is resistant to damage by heat. Kind of like the other, like fireplace glass, which is technically not glass; it's ceramic. Da, 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 da. You got me there. I don't know which video that would be, North Alabama. I've got a lot of them. But if you're homing and it's grinding, and if you have limit switches, then you obviously have either a limit switches are turned off, or you're homing way too fast. Which means you need to either check, make sure your limit switches are working properly by testing them, like move the machine and bump the limit switch and see if it stops the machine. If it doesn't, then you're going to need to go into controller settings. And if it does stop the machine, but it's still grinding when you home it, then it's probably because your speeds are way too high and it's not allowing it time to slow down before it hits that switch. So, but I don't know what video that would be, North Alabama. I've done a lot of them. There you go. Somebody's got one for you, Steve.
Um, yeah, so you might need to get, you want to make sure that your HDMI cable is rated for data as well as video. And I'm not sure if that's just the high speed one or there are some that are high speed with Ethernet, but I believe that might be the issue as far as making sure it can actually communicate with the controller. I don't have any good recommendations on which ones will work because I've not tried that, but I'll have to see if I have any on hand and maybe I can test a couple extending that little panel.
Yeah, I haven't ever tried that. I don't even use those things, to be honest with you. Kingdom, as far as, if you're talking to me, all of the test files that I use as far as speed and power are all generated out of Lightburn. And I've got different arrays for different machines and different materials. But no, I don't sell those on Etsy. It's just simply just using the Lightburn utility to create them, and then I save them just for, as a time saver. So when I go back to test another piece of material, I don't have to recreate it every time. But I don't sell those.
Yeah, I don't. I hate when those are for sale because there's so many ways to do it for free. I use the Lightbird ones, but I've actually been developing kind of my own new one here. It's got both of a cut test in there as well as a raster on the bottom. I'm trying to hold it close enough to the camera to see. And so I'm testing this out. I'm probably going to shrink it down a little bit more as well. But I'm trying to make an all-in-one card that I can run like this and have a little customization to it. And if I do get it worked out, I promise I will give this away freely for other people to use. Because
from side by side, I don't know how to get us out. They've moved my buttons around.
There
we go.
So yeah, I do have a video on using the Lightburn material test. So you can definitely follow through that one if you want. And then have you done one? I know you've been playing around with it in XCS.
I've got one on. Well, I've done a couple of videos with doing them in XCS.
Yeah. So.
And I've got one on Lightburn too.
But yeah, I mean, there are some good ones out there, and you might feel they're worth paying for, but don't feel like you have to pay for a test file. There's a lot of them that are out there that are for free. So definitely use those first.
White space scan. I've gotten away from white space scan since, I guess, since we got into the 20 watts and above. I don't use it as much as I used to, because it used to cause a little bit of issues with shuttering with some of the machines, and so I kind of got away from using it, unless if I've got a specific file that maybe I want to do that way. But for the most part, I don't run it as much. Whose audio? Mine? I did turn it back down a little bit when Kline left. I guess I can turn it back up. See you, James.
Yeah, white space is one of those things that machine to machine, some are going to struggle with it, some will do fine. I mean, it's nice when you can play with it depending on your design because it can cut down on the time, but um, it, it it can also allow it to get way out of whack if it starts, if you get a lot of jitter and it starts moving too fast. So it's one of those things that if you want to play with it, I would just kind of take some increments and work your way up until you start seeing issues and then back off. And that's really going to be machine specific, I think.
Yeah. I don't know anything about the Monport Onyx. Is that their new desktop, like diode machine or something? Didn't they come out with one?
I would thought, yeah, I was looking at. I'm kind of so OhmTech came out with their diode, and yeah, I believe Monport did as well. But I don't know enough about it to really say.
Oh no, it's showing that's a CO2. That's a 55 watt CO2. So, it looks a lot like, as far as the size, it looks like it's going to be probably their attempt at a P2. It's going to pass through and everything.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it kind of looks like their attempt at a P2. It looks like it's a desktop with a pass through, built-in camera, and that type of stuff. Looks
Sure.
kind of cool.
Yeah. So, anytime you get into these desktop lasers, you got to take a close look at, the cutting area and the depth because they are what they are. And unless they have like a riser base or some opening on the bottom that you can lift it up, sometimes that can be a limiting factor for you. But there are a lot more of them coming out. And I mean, that's one comment. You even made it earlier about, having to get, the unit takes up space, the chiller takes up space. You got an exhaust fan. A lot of these are trying to build a lot of that into it. Now, whether that's good or bad, I don't know. Some of them having that kind of integrated smaller radiator or chiller or whatever that's in there. I'm curious to see how well it lasts. Like if you were running it as a business, doing it 8-10 hours a day, is it going to be able to keep up or not? But
Yeah,
they are coming down in size and a little bit in price.
What is happening going on with my audio over there? It's not. Hang on, something's up within. Looks like it's something within Streamlabs. It's not. It's not on me. I think it's on Streamlabs.
Well, I could also try to bring mine down a bit.
Let me put my headphones on. It may be this echo canceling. Give me a second. Since Kline's not here, I can put my headphones on now. I bet that's what it is. I turned echo canceling on when I got in here because Kline was here. Let me go. Let me turn the echo canceling off and see if that fixes it because I've got all about that. Yeah, that ought to have changed it a little bit anyway.
Yeah, I hopefully bump mine down a little bit too, just to hopefully balance it out. Don't want people being frustrated with audio for sure.
Yeah, well, I had when Kline was here because I couldn't figure out how to get it to output to two sets of headphones in a time sensitive manner. So I changed up some stuff. But unless I bumped something a minute ago, no, it looks like everything's all right over here. Unless it's something happening with now I can always crank mine up, but unless it's something happening with Restream, I should be good now. It still looks like it's low.
Well, Johnny, I'll be curious to see what you think of the Bolt. I've been kind of keeping my eye on that as well. And if I was looking at a larger CO2 for my small business, I think that would be one of the contenders for sure. So be interesting to see what you think about it.
Huh.
A lot of clicking going on over there.
Well, I'm trying to make sure I don't still have any filters turned on from the other day when I was doing a video on my machine. It looks like it should be working, but it's hard to tell with this. Okay, Brad said he hears both just fine now. It's hard to tell with this restream because it's so delayed that I can't see the graph. But on my real time graphs over here, it looks good.
Okay.
So we'll just keep moving.
So here's a question that maybe you can answer from Stubborn Bull about the S1 exhaust.
Standards. Well, I will tell you this: the little fan that's in there, I think when they put that fan in the chassis of the S1, they intended on people using their filtration system, which probably has an intake fan in it. I run a 20-foot hose from the machine outside when I'm using it here, and I did notice that I was getting a little bit of leakage because it was losing negative pressure going into the machine. So I added on the other end of the hose, I added a 4-inch fan just to add a little draft to it, and that fixed that problem right up. So if you're gonna be going more than, I don't know, 6 or 8 feet with the hose, I would probably go ahead and look at least putting a little bit of an inline fan on there to kind of help make sure you have negative pressure in the inside the enclosure, because I was getting some seepage of smoke and stuff coming out with the 20 foot of hose. But I mean, it's 20 foot of 6-inch hose. That's a bit of a stretch for that little small fan that's in the chassis. But I use 6-inch hose because everything else I got in here is pretty much run on 6-inch fans. But if you're using their recycler or their purifier or whatever, that may make a difference. But if you're going to be running at 20 foot, I'd go ahead and at least add something to it.
Yeah, it says only be an arm's length or so. So hopefully you're fine with that. I would keep it as straight as you can. Try not to have too many bends that it has to contend with, and then yeah, hopefully that'll work pretty well.
It's hard to clip this big old thing right here to your shirt. It weighs like 3 pounds. It's got a big weight in the bottom of it. that would look funny though. Big condenser microphone in you. But no,
Yeah.
it's highly directional microphone. And when Kline was here, I had it aimed to between us, so I think that was part of my problem. Darren, I don't know that any of the. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know that any of the filters are gonna last very long. I know I've had the Com Grow. You've had the Com Grow. Even my Wind like dust filter for my shop. Those things don't last terribly long. I mean, they do, but they don't last too god awful long. So.
You're making me do it. You're making me do it.
Steve's going to get one.
So yeah, I've been testing one for the past month or so, and this is the one from Xtool. So I will show you what this filter looks like after a few weeks use. And I mean, that's not been constant. It's not been like business, but so this is the top filter, and this is just for debris, and that gets pretty dirty pretty quick. And then they have a HEPA filter, and it's also a little brown, a little tannish, as you can see from the top side versus the bottom. And then the last part here is the activated charcoal. It's pretty good size. I couldn't tell you the volume in there, but again, it's kind of smoky on the one side, more white on this side. Even when it was brand new, they work well to remove the haze, and they definitely cut down on the smoke. But it's not going to be 100%. So I'm not going to say you should run this in your kitchen next to your family. But if you're in an enclosed space, especially up here in northern climate, it's already been getting cold. It really cuts down on it, and takes away that haze, takes away a lot of the particulate. You're still going to have a little bit of that kind of smoke smell coming out of it, but it's a lot better. and I can actually run it in here and not necessarily exhaust it out air, dumping all my warm air out with it. But yeah, these filter stacks, they're like $100 and some odd to replace. So it's not something I would rely on solely if I have an option to vent it outside. So
What in the world is going on with my little selection? I have lost a screen, Steve.
what are you doing?
I can't put us back. There we go. There we are. Just I can't put us back in the Brady Bunch. Look.
Ugh.
But yeah, like I said, I guess they're better than, like you said, in some climates especially. It might be a better alternative, but luckily where I'm at, I just blow it outside. Now I did have a little bit of a scare today. I had to run to the house real quick, and yesterday, I was doing my stool, which is quite an extensive engrave on the V35, and so I had to run to the house for a second. And when I turned around and came back toward the shop, the wind was blowing just right to where my vent on the corner of the shop over here, there was so much smoke being generated by this V35 that there was like a plume going towards the house. And my heart stopped for just a second because I had to run to the house for just a minute. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I can't run right now. So I was like, my heart rate's got up, and I opened the door. I'm like grabbing for the fire extinguisher. But what it was just the way the wind was pushing the smoke down. It was generating so much that that 6-inch hose out there was just it looked like a train, like one of the old locomotives from back in the day.
Wow.
Brad, I'm gonna use them. That's what I do. I'm gonna use them. Still got a couple more things I want to do with the WeCreate and check. I'm kind of waiting for Lightburn compatibility to get a little bit better with the WeCreate. They say that it'll work. I had a little trouble with it, and if I had a little trouble with it, I'm afraid that other people may have more trouble with it. But it's a decent machine. It's the work area is a little small, but it will crank out some tumblers really well. So I don't know yet. Don't know exactly what. Brandy actually said that she thinks that machine's like for her because it's cute and it can be like sit in the house and she could use it inside the house. But I don't know yet. We'll see.
Yeah, I think that's gonna. Well, you've got the S1, but the WeCreate size-wise, how do they compare? Like taking up space on the bench.
The WeCreate smaller.
So I
And
thought.
I actually,
So
he's actually saying what I've been thinking. I've actually thought about taking it and putting it on my mobile setup, but I just haven't. I haven't decided yet. I don't know. I'm still gonna keep playing with it and make sure that nothing comes up that I don't like about it before I decide to do that. But it is a good. If I was going to go do an event and I didn't want to take my portable table, like say if I just wanted to go do an event and take a machine and a folding table and a couple of chairs, that would actually be a really good machine to take because with my portable setup right now, I've actually got the air assist built into it. I've got the enclosure built into it. I've got battery backups and power and all that. But with this thing, that's all you got to have right there. I mean, you don't have to have the air assist and stuff. So it is actually a really good machine for doing events. I don't know that I want to go change my setup just right yet.
yeah, well, I mean, that's one thing that I was thinking about is that people that are, it would be far more mobile than me taking my big plywood enclosure for the X tool. And that's one of the things that was great about the F1. It was fully enclosed. I was able to run it. People could see what it's doing, and I didn't have to worry about it so much. And that's where I think that type of machine or the S1, because they're more fully enclosed.
Yeah, the S1's actually a lot bigger than the WeCreate, though.
Well, yeah, and that's where I was asking earlier is that the size difference, but just being able to have that fully enclosed setup is so much better for operating around others. So whether it's portable, like in your case, or like I've had some faculty in a few different programs at the community college say, hey, what we'd love to talk with you about lasers and how we can incorporate it into our program and such. And I'm like, well, you know, there's safety concerns we got. You know, there's cheap and then there's safe, and they're not
Yeah.
always put together in the same sentence. So
Oh yeah, it's like I said, the cart that I had to get for the S1 is 24 by 36, I think it is, and there's just enough room on the width. There's just enough room for the air assist pump to sit back there.
that's got to
And
be
not,
pretty close to the size of that Monport laser.
oh, it's not small. Hang on, let me go grab this
Yeah.
thing. Hello. It's not small. By no means is it small. Like I said, from end to end, this guy is packing it in. I think it's probably close to 30 inches from side to side. Yeah, it's exactly 30 inches. So from side to side, you're looking at 30 inches. From front to back, 22 inches. And without the riser, you're looking at a height of 7.5 or so. And like I said, and it's probably about 3/4 of the workspace is exposed when you open the door. But, but yeah, it's not a small machine by no stretch of the imagination. The
So
only
yeah,
thing that
so the Monport's just a couple inches wider.
yeah, not much. I mean, it's just about the same size as my M40.
Yeah, I measured mine. It's 32 wide.
Yeah. Now this doesn't have to have a chiller. This one doesn't have to have a chiller or a 5-gallon bucket full of water. So I mean that's an advantage, I guess. But
Well, neither
this
does
one
your M40. It just wouldn't run very long.
yeah. Well, we don't want to run that without some kind of cooling. Let's see what we got going on here. I am starting to yawn, guys. Hang on a minute. Woo! Since I have been injured, I've been going to bed early and I done got hurt.
So Stubborn Bold's asking, you know, designing files in Lightburn compared to XCS, which wouldn't be a big deal if you design in other programs, as long as it's SVG or DXF. Ask you if that's correct. And so yeah, I actually do a lot of my design work outside of Lightburn and or XCS, and I then import to it. Yeah, DXF works, SVG works. I've had random issues with either one scaling properly. So that's just the important thing is if you're going to design in another software and you want to make sure you have a reference to ensure its accuracy, put in like a 1-inch square on your drawing that is just there as a key. That way, when you import it back in, you can use your measurement tool, hopefully, and just double check that that did import into the right dimensions. Because sometimes it's importing as model units, sometimes it's importing as millimeters, sometimes it's importing as inches. So it's good to have something to be able to reference and check.
Reduce charring when cutting 5mm plywood. A good working air assist. That's really all you got to have. And good focus.
Well, and then depending on the laser, if you're having to slow it down to like 100 millimeters a minute to cut through it, you might want to double it up 2 passes because the longer it sits there, the more risk of charring you have. Now that's on the cut itself, but when you don't go through all the way, then you increase your risk of surface kind of charring, I would say, or just that overburn, the vaporization and the smoke staining on there. If you can cut through in 1 pass, it generally passes through, and if you've got good air assist, it dissipates underneath. If you don't cut all the way through, then it's only going to come up and then get pushed out by that air. So it's kind of a trade-off. But if you're having to go too slow, that you're overheating the wood and the cut itself is charring, then you got to speed it up.
Yeah. Yeah, John. I am doing much, much better. They got the they got my weight off of that nerve that goes down my leg, and so I don't have near the pain. I still got a little bit of residual pain, My follow-up appointment's not for another week, uh, and I gotta get my staples taken out and all that kind of stuff. But definitely an improvement so far. Uh, I can I can function now without having a whole lot of foreign substances in my body to keep me from going crazy from pain. So that's good. But yeah, I hadn't. That's the first time I'd seen that bolt. I'd have to look at that, but it wasn't me. It looked like a bad machine.
Yeah, Mark, I've had issues with both SVGs and DXFs in most any program, and it seems to be a combination of the program that exports the actual file, and if it's adding in the appropriate information so that the import program understands what unit it's working in and such. So sometimes they don't they seem to lose some of that information, and then you import it and their dimensions are all wonky, or uh, it'll do some things. Now I've also run into the issue where, say if you're working in Illustrator and you're using a bunch of vector shapes and items, but then you add text. Well, the text tries to come through as text and not lines and curves. So usually when I'm working with that, I'll actually take my entire drawing, highlight it, and make sure I export those to paths so that they're not something other than that. It's all coming through as a vector at that point. But yeah, I've had it in the past where I've had to import into Lightburn and then export back out into another CAD program because I was getting double lines in one versus the other. And sometimes I've used VCarve the same way. Um, they all kind of seem to have their little quirks to them.
Wow, I need a coffee. My sleep schedule got so messed up during all that stuff, man. Because when I was taking those meds, like you take your meds and then nap, take your meds, nap.
Yeah. So are you just sleeping more, or are you getting up earlier?
I'm getting up way earlier, and I got to where I'm waking up at like 5 in the morning. I used to
Yeah.
never ever get up at 5 in the morning, but
Good.
what
I'll feel like I can call you then.
yeah, well, what happened was I was having to set alarms to take my meds like every 4 hours. If I didn't, I would wake up in excruciating pain after 5 hours, and then I'd take the medicine, and it'd take another hour for it to take effect. So by this time, I got 2 hours of just literal
Yeah.
just pain. And so I had an alarm set for every 4 hours to remind me to take my medicine. And so I was getting up. I'd go to bed at 9. I'd get up like 1, take my medicine, and then get up at 5 and take my medicine. And now that 5 o'clock is kind of like stuck with me. So I'm just having a hard time
Yeah.
getting over it.
Well, between me, I don't know. I've never considered myself a morning person, but I also like to start the day and get work done with early. So I guess I do. But yeah, I tend to be a bit of an early bird myself, but I also do crazy things like stay up late working on video edits and other stuff as well. So
Oh
some
yeah.
days I'm just not sleeping enough.
Oh no, I'm much more of a night shifter than I am a day shifter, and
Yeah.
it's just this whole incident and not. I've been on a weird schedule. So it's got me
Yeah.
all messed up. That and I ran out of tea a
Um,
little while ago, so now I'm just drinking melted ice and I got any caffeine.
so Darren, I haven't tried to clean the filter on this yet. They do send two of those like top filters with the unit, and I don't know if you buy the refill kit if it comes with two as well, but that's definitely one that goes quicker. I've heard from other people that you can kind of rinse it out and get some of that out. I mean, it really is just kind of more of a debris filter. So it's probably something I'll try. Might as well rather than just toss it out. But the concern would be making sure you get it rinsed out and then fully dried without having it kind of just fall apart. So I'll definitely keep giving that a test and find out.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, those filters for my dust collection get blown out 2 or 3 times before they get thrown in the garbage.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Those things get expensive too.
Yep. Although for my size, I don't remember what size you have. local Menards actually stocks them most of the time, so
Huh.
I'm able to get them locally.
This one's the Win. I think it says 3416. I'd have to look at my Amazon history, but I think it's a 3416.
Mine's the Grizzly version, and it's just whatever size filters there are. But so yeah, just go check out your local Menards, and you'll be able to see if they have them.
I don't have a Menards. I've got a box of filters up there still. I usually buy those like 2 or 3 boxes at a time because I catch them. I get lucky and catch them to where they're cheap or cheaper if you buy like 3 or 4 boxes. So I'll buy a bunch of them and stack them up over there. So I've got quite a few still. Hello there, Grandpa LBN.
So yeah, Jeff, that would be great, except for it's kind of in this, I don't know, like tag board, cardboard enclosure kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know
I'm
how that
afraid
cardboard would hold up.
well, even just kind of, you might be able to cut it open and then tape it back up, but it seems structural until the point where you make it not structural, it might start falling. But yeah, it would be nice to be able to, recycle and reuse the filters as much as possible. But
all right, questions, everybody? Anybody? It's 8:46 where I live, and it's an hour and 46 into our live. If you haven't already, go check out the laser engraving community page that we have. We try to keep information and stuff there. If you're coming from my channel and you're not familiar with Steve or haven't subscribed to Steve, we would appreciate you doing so. We do actually compare notes a lot, and we review a lot of the same machines. And I think we've got a couple of machines coming now that we're both going to be reviewing to kind of compare with.
yeah, possibly.
So within the next couple of weeks, there should be. I know I've got a Atom Stack machine that I'm supposed to be checking out, as well as a Elegoo, which I've never used an Elegoo machine, so we'll see how that works out. But and a lot of times we try the same machines out because it's 2 different perspectives a lot of times, and what I might like in a machine, Steve might not like, or vice versa, and so it gives you not only my opinion of the machine, but you get Steve's. And they don't always match up completely. Most of the time, we agree on whether it's a good machine or whether it's not. But Steve likes certain aspects of the machine that I might not care for, and then vice versa. So, make sure you go check his channel out and subscribe if you haven't already, or vice versa.
Yeah. Same thing too. If you're coming from my channel and you haven't subscribed to the Clack Shack, definitely check that out. He's got a lot of mixed information between, if you go way back, some sawmilling stuff. But
Well, hopefully now that we can do this again, I get back on that sawmill here for long. It's sawmilling weather, and it is killing me not to be able to go up there. But we'll get back at it.
So yeah, definitely. We do have fun to kind of bouncing ideas and sometimes help each other troubleshoot machines. So appreciate everybody there. So yeah, I've got I'm it's that thing, I was waiting to have the tracking and then also that you have it in place. So I may have that Atom Stack machine coming. I have had a few people reach out to me about a few other things that I'm waiting to see. But I did spend part of this weekend playing around. I showed you these cards earlier. But in the quest for material I can recommend people use, I came across these through the Home Depot website, and it's pure bond birch plywood, but they come in these maker or these project panel size. So this is what it was. It's 12 inches by 19. And so it's almost a perfect size for most of these 400 by 400 lasers. It's just a little bit wider than that. And the nice thing is that you can order this off of Home Depot's website. And for, at least for me, they offered free shipping. I just had to pay the price plus the tax. So I wanted to see if that was worth anything, and they have it in 2 different sizes. The bigger size is technically a 1/4 inch, but it's like 0.203 inches. And then this is 5/32, so it's like 0.135 or something like that. So it's a little bit bigger than an 1/8, but a little bit smaller than a 1/4. A couple of nice sizes to be able to work with. And so hoping to get this video out maybe even tomorrow. And then I also have a project video that I made with this stuff. So hopefully it's something that, you know, can recommend people that maybe don't have the ability to cut down a big sheet, or they don't have a good store near them. You know, if they can order it from Home Depot and have it delivered right to them, you know, it's an option. And the most important thing being is it fairly consistent? And so far, I've actually had some pretty good luck with this stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's something
That's
that
what
I
I've been-
never really thought about when I started doing this. Is a lot of people have told me, you know, I'm like, I pick up a 4x8 sheet at the hardware store. They're like, I don't have a truck. I drive a Prius. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. You know, never
Yeah.
really dawned on me that, you know, where I live, it's rare that people don't have a truck, but, you know, a lot of people don't. And so that's an option. Like you said, you could have it dropped to your house and shipped to you and never even have to go get it.
Yeah, no, I'm liking this stuff so far. Unfortunately, they don't seem to sell this specific kind in the 1/4 inch or even the thinner in larger sheets, at least in my area. And that's kind of one of the things you get that you got to be careful of with Home Depot or Lowe's or whatnot. A lot of it is regional. And so what I get in my area might not be what you get. And so the nice thing with this is it does, I think it actually drop ships from Pure Bond itself. So they're down in the southeast area, and hopefully then it's going to be fairly consistent from, you know, if a person buys it online from them, they're probably going to be getting the same stuff. I do wish I could get the larger sheets and just bring it home, cut it myself. Hopefully it would be cheaper, and then I could customize the size as well. But this is looking kind of like a nice option.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's something that'll be available to people that are just kind of struggling, like you say, can't bring it home or don't have the saw to cut it down to size, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that burst that I got from Lowe's the other day, Kline was over here earlier. He's like, dude, what kind of plywood is this? I was like, hey, you missed a video.
So, you know, and I see a lot of this too, where people are like, well, but I have, you know, 5mm birch plywood. Well, not all birch plywood is the same. As a matter of fact, let's see if I can show you this. So on this stuff that I just cut, see if I can get to focus on this. There is, that's going to be tough, isn't it? There is 2 really thin veneer layers. I don't know if you can see that very well, but the middle section is really thick, and then you just have the birch inner, and then or the veneer layers on top and bottom. And so this inner layer is probably like poplar or something really lightweight. Whereas you get some other plywood, such as this semi-Baltic birch, and I can't get it to focus. You have 5 layers of actual birch plywood. And so those are going to be a lot more dense. It's going to be a lot more to cut through. You got more layers of glue to cut through. So it can be the same thickness, and it can even be birch, but it's not the same as, you know, those inner cores matter. Those inner layers of glue matter as well. So.
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of times the whatever they say, whether it's birch or oak or whatever, that's only that very outer layer. Whatever's sandwiched in the middle could be who knows what.
Yeah, and that's so your hardwood plywoods are, you like you say, they're the veneer. But when you get into cabinet grade plywoods such as Baltic birch, that's where they're going to be those heavier actual hard layers of birch throughout the whole thing. But you know, then you're getting it because it's structural and such.
So, Super Duty said Jack drives a Prius. Yeah.
But
No, hey, I did have a lady come the other day and pick up a machine, and she's one of my local makers over here that I know. And I didn't know what she drove, but she pulls up in a smart car. But this thing actually had a pretty good sized trunk on it. I was shocked. But it was crazy. I saw this thing coming up the driveway, and I'm like, what is that? And she lives right down the street from me. She does engraving as well.
Nice.
But yeah, 550 for a 12 by 12 sheet of quarter inch birch. That's what Stubborn Bulls Customs is saying.
Um,
See, some
yeah,
of that
you
stuff's
can.
just crazy expensive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what bugs me is pre-COVID, I was able to get a 5 foot by 5 foot sheet of 1/8 inch or 3 millimeter Baltic birch plywood at my now this wasn't retail. I was getting it at like a dealer price as well for what I was doing, but it was, I think the cheapest I paid was about $7 and something cents per sheet. And that was shipped to my door, to my shop. The quarter inch stuff was, again, it was like 13, 14 or so. And that, again, 5 foot by 5 foot sheet. Now they've tripled in price for that same stuff. So,
Yep. All right. Well, guys, it is my hour and 55 minutes into it. Yeah.
yeah.
Anytime you get any kind of material, guys, and I know I did a video the other day about some stuff from Lowe's. Understand that, like Steve said, there may be differences in the material, but even if there's no differences in the material, if you're in Arizona or if you're in Louisiana, the way that material cuts in your shop may be different. So always do your own research. Go ahead and throw your little piece of material up there, run a few cut tests, figure out the settings that work best for your machine. Because, like I said, like we talk about a lot of times, you got air assist, spot size, how well your air assist works. Whether or not you're using a honeycomb. There's a lot of variables that can affect how your machine cuts versus how my machine cuts. I run about 10 psi air through a pressure regulator from my shop air. It's gonna cut different than a stock air pump that comes with most of these machines. I tune my air to get to where it leaves no trace of soot on my cuts, and I tune it with a regulator as I'm making a cut. So you're not able to do that with most air assist setups. So even though I may be getting really, really clean cut results with the stuff, you may have to tweak those settings to get similar results, and you may not be able to get the same result because your setup is different. But we try to help give you guys, if nothing else, give you a starting point to where you can say, okay, I'll start here and then work my way out or work my way around, and give you good information on how to come up with those good settings. Because me and Steve, like I said, I can't remember what machine it was, but we had one machine in the shop where you took a piece of painter's tape and fixed a problem with the air assist and got like 200% better cuts
Yeah.
with a piece of painter's tape. Those are the type of things that we enjoy and we like passing on to you guys. So, that's,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, this stuff right here is what I get locally. And I pay $24 for a 4x8 sheet of this stuff. It cuts like butter. Every now and then I'll get a knot, okay? It happens. But for $24 for a 4x8 sheet, I'll use the knots for something I'm going to be painting or whatever. But this stuff's actually really, really tough. It's durable, and it just works for me. Now, I do have other materials that I pick up at other places for other projects. But yeah, just shop around, guys. I mean, you never know what you're going to find. All kinds of cool materials to use and make project with. Jim, this stuff I buy this locally, and I can't tell you what it is. I've asked the place where I buy it. I asked them, hey, where do y'all get this? And all they tell me is they put it on a truck at our headquarters and send it to us. I don't know what it's called. This is what they have. They know the barcode number in their computer. That's all they know. I've checked every piece of it I've bought. I've never found a sticker. I've never found a barcode. It's just, this is what I get. I can tell you it is poplar wood, but it's like what Steve said. It's got an outer veneer on both sides, and it's got the thick inner layer. And it cuts most stuff. It makes really good parts. Now there's some things that I want a little bit more, real wood look, that I go for solid wood, or I use a different thicker plywood. But for a lot of the stuff like boxes and stuff I use around the shop, this stuff works great. But I get it at Russell Do It Center, and unless you're from Alabama or some parts of Georgia, you're not going to have a Russell Do It Center. That's just the way that works. What was you going to say, Steve, before I cut you off?
I don't.
Now, I will tell you, this Luan that I got from Lowe's the other day is very, very similar. Okay? And you can go back and look at my Lowe's video. And this is it right here. This is very similar, if I can get it where you can read it, right there. This is very similar. And this is the, what's it called? 5.2 millimeter, so 2.4 millimeter, 2x4 sheet. This is very similar to what I use. And it wasn't that expensive, but it's not the same. Yeah, it's underlayment, Luan, but now this stuff, jury's still out on this stuff. It does good at some things it doesn't. Here's some of Steve's favorite, birch. But I did a video a few days ago, guys. If you want to go back and look at it, just keyword search my videos for Lowe's. This is my little Lowe's haul. I did get some solid woods as well, some solid oak, stuff like that to play around with. But that video's been out for about a week now, maybe a little longer. And some pretty good materials, and especially if you're not, you're not set in on any one particular material, it might be something you want to look at. Looking at Robert. Well, all right, I'm gonna be quiet for a minute. Let Steve talk.
Well, I think we're coming up on the end. We've been going for a couple hours. It's a little past 9 local time. So just going to remind everybody, we do have our laser engraving community through Facebook. I've got the link down below in my description if you want to check that out. We're getting awfully close to 1,000 people in that group. And we keep it pretty, we've so far been able to keep most of the annoying scammers out, and the bots and just the resellers out. So most people are in there, just an extension of what we're doing here tonight. They're sharing ideas, they're sharing questions, and helping each other out. And so it's a good place to kind of keep up with us throughout the week as well. Otherwise, we both have our Facebook pages. We have Instagram pages. We try to keep most of those, going with some content, and then of course appreciate everybody interacting with us on all those. So if you have any of those platforms and want to follow us there, we would love that support as well. Otherwise, I think we're going to wrap it up and
yeah, it's about time we go get some sleep.
see what rolls into our workshops this next week. And November is going to be here. Daylight savings time is going to end. It's going to be getting dark, it's crazy early, and we'll have nothing but workshop time. So.
Yeah, well, I am hoping, and like I said, guys, I know it's going to be a few more weeks before I can get on the mill, because I think it's going to be 6 or 8 weeks before I can do any kind of like strenuous stuff. But I do hope that before it gets back to 100 degrees around here, that I can get back on the mill. Maybe bring you guys along, show you, some of the stuff. Like a lot of my 1/4 inch like wood, whether it be maple or cedar or black walnut or whatever. That's where a lot of it comes from. Is I mill it myself, but of course recently, due to injuries or back problems, the mill's been shut down. So that's why I've been sourcing some of my stuff at Lowe's and places like that. But yeah, might bring you guys along if that's something you're interested in. Keep a lookout for that. But like I said, if you're coming from my channel and you haven't already, guys, go check out Steve's channel. Hit that subscribe button. Steve is trying yours. How far are you from your goal now? I haven't looked today. How far we got to go?
Give or take about 648.
So go get 647 of your friends and tell them to go subscribe to Steve's YouTube channel so he can reach his goal for the year. And I personally am going to set my goal. I don't know if I'll be able to achieve it, but I'm going to try to hit 20K by the end of the year. That's my goal. I think you should have goals. Maybe this one's not inobtainable, but we'll go for that. But I appreciate you guys. Enjoyed it. And for everybody that asked about my back, those of you that've been praying for me and all that good stuff, I appreciate it. It has definitely been a game changer. Nowhere near the pain that I've had in the past. And hopefully, according to the doctors, within the next 2 or 3 weeks, I will forget that it ever happened, which I don't think I'll forget it, but hopefully I won't have any lasting effects from it. But anyway, I'll see you guys. So y'all be safe.
We'll see you next week.